Imagine standing up on a high ridge, right? The fierce, sandy winds of Karakoram are just whipping past you. We are dropping straight into a massive historical turning point today, a moment of absolutely incredible tension set in the very heart of the Mongol Empire. In this explainer, we're unpacking a really fascinating story of power, succession, and shadowy infiltration. We're going to dive right into the high-stakes political vacuum left by a legendary conqueror and track a deadly hunt taking place literally right under the noses of history's most feared generals. Now picture this scene from the perspective of a mysterious, totally unkempt young stranger. He's starving, covered in months of dust, and he's standing on a hill, looking down at this vast, endless sea of tents. And we're not talking hundreds or even thousands. We're talking millions of tents stretching as far as the eye can see all the way to the horizon. It's like a temporary city just materialized out of thin air. And right in the center of this ocean of canvas flies a massive banner, a giant flag with 9 yak tails. That is the banner of Genghis Khan, a symbol of absolute terror that drowned a huge part of the world in blood, just flapping there like a demon in the wind.
So let's get into the empty throne, the death of Genghis Khan.
The reality behind this awe-inspiring gathering is simple, but it is completely destabilizing. Genghis Khan, the supreme ruler, the guy who built the largest contiguous empire in human history, is dead. And his death has created this massive, dangerous power vacuum that honestly threatens to swallow the entire world order. What that stranger on the hill is looking at is a Kurultai, specifically the very first Kurultai following Genghis Khan's death. It's a huge political and military council called for one monumental purpose: electing the new Khagan, or supreme ruler. But listen, this isn't just a meeting, it is a political battlefield. Every major decision about the empire's future is happening right here. Behind those closed tent flaps, internal politics are raging. Factions are quietly drawing lines in the sand, plotting and maneuvering to somehow survive in a post-Genghis world.
The geopolitical weight here is just staggering. It's literally dictating the fate of millions across Europe and Asia. You've got princes, battle-hardened Mongol generals, and vassal rulers who have traveled all the way from Eastern Europe to Asia Minor. Delegations from distant, conquered lands are there, some forced to come, sure, but others are desperately trying to prove their absolute loyalty to whoever takes the throne next. So amidst the smoke of thousands of roasting sheep and the sheer noise of millions of people, elites from the known world are gathering. They're quietly forming alliances in what's essentially the most high-stake networking event in history, where a single political misstep means absolute annihilation.
Which brings us to 3 heirs, 1 empire, the succession crisis. With the supreme ruler gone, the big question is, who among his sons is actually going to take control? The Kurultai isn't a formality. It's this tense, explosive waiting game. Now, the eldest son, Jochi, is dead, or as the Mongols would say, he's passed into the blue immortal sky. That leaves 3 living sons in a really intense power struggle. You have Chagatai, the eldest living son, who's a strict traditionalist. Then Ogadai, the middle son, considered more of a pragmatic diplomat, and finally Tolui, the youngest, who happens to control the vast majority of the central Mongol military apparatus. Talk about leverage, right? The friction between their loyalists is electric. The whole city of tents is holding its breath. But while the empire is focused entirely on these 3 princes, there's a much smaller, immediate, and incredibly deadly problem slipping through the shadows.
Let's look at a ghost in the camp, the infiltration.
Zooming back in from the macro politics to the reality on the ground, remember our starving stranger? He's a young guy, maybe 20 or 22 years old, barefoot, with a heavily tattooed left arm. And get this, he doesn't care at all about the succession crisis or who the next Khagan is. He's infiltrated this massive perimeter for a very specific, deadly reason. First, the breach. He approaches an outer tent, hears voices, and silently slices right through the canvas with a strange dagger. Inside, there are 2 Tatar soldiers. One's eating roasted meat, the other is literally getting a foot massage from a captive girl. Before they can even blink, he grabs the first soldier by the hair, yanks him out of the tent, and dispatches him, silent as a ghost. When the second soldier steps out to look, same thing. Pulled into the dark, killed without a sound. It's ruthless efficiency. Then, he just steals the dead guy's clothes, uses his own long hair and pointed mustache, and perfectly disguises himself as a Mongol warrior. Now, inside that tent is the captive woman. She's terrified, obviously. But when she realizes this guy is taking out her Tatar captors, the people she sees as the ultimate monsters, she stays dead silent. Our assassin steps back in, covered in blood, but he just drinks some water, gently shushes her, grabs some food, and slips away. Later, he actually stops to watch another captive woman named Marina, who's singing a sad Mongol song by the trees. He approaches her with this strange, almost innocent curiosity, inspecting her hair before vanishing when someone calls her name. It's this brief, stark reminder of the human collateral, the millions of displaced lives caught in the Empire's massive machinery.
Moving on to The Hunt Begins, General Yorak's Discovery.
Look, you can't just drop bodies in the heart of the Mongol capital and expect nobody to notice. General Yorak, who is this massive, incredibly muscular commander with arms like tree trunks, hears about the dead soldiers, and he is absolutely furious. This is an unprecedented security breach. They say where the sons of Genghis Khan gather, even the wind doesn't dare blow too hard. They brutally interrogate the captive girl, literally drowning her in a sack over and over again. But all she knows is the killer looked Mongol, but acted different, like a strange creature. Then, more bodies turn up a mile away in Commander Tamajun's sector. And that's when it hits General Yorak. The killer isn't a rival Mongol prince settling a score. The golden rule is that a son of Genghis Khan doesn't slit another Mongol's throat like a thief in the night. No, this killer is an audacious outsider who just walked right into the lion's den. And this leads to a terrifying clash of wills. The disguised assassin attacks another high-ranking commander in his tent. After a fierce struggle, he's got the commander pinned on the floor, stepping on his stomach, sword pointed right at his face. The assassin growls in perfect Mongol, "Where is Sardar Bogali?" But here we see ultimate Mongol pride. The commander realizes his attacker is an imposter, maybe Christian, maybe Muslim, and his Genghis-blooded pride flat out refuses to let him yield to a non-Mongol. He tries to fight back, but the unknown assassin is relentlessly efficient. Before the commander can even shout, the blade goes right through his mouth and palate, silencing him forever. So what is this guy's actual goal? After easily taking down one of the most elite fighters on the planet, he just wipes his bloody blade on the dead man's clothes, sheaths it, and calmly walks back out into the bustling evening camp. He blends flawlessly into the crowds of hundreds of thousands of people hanging around the campfires eating. He is quite literally a needle in an impossibly large haystack. But who is he looking for? He's actively scanning the faces lit up by the firelight, eagle eyes darting left and right. He is searching for one specific face out of the millions gathered at this Kurultai, a face that matches the words tattooed on his arm. He's hunting for a man with a very distinct mark, a straight sword scar running from his hairline right down to the tip of his nose. That's a scar you could spot, even in a crowd of thousands. Which leaves us with this huge, burning question. Who is Sardar Bogali? Why on earth has a lone, starving assassin infiltrated the most heavily guarded political event on the planet just to find him? And what threat does this shadowy target pose to an empire that's already teetering on the edge of a massive succession crisis? The winds of Karakoram are shifting, guys, and the greatest empire in the world is about to face an enemy it literally never saw coming. Keep questioning and keep learning.